Welcome to the Local.
A 724 podcast.
In 3, 2, 1.
Yo, what's up? Welcome. It's podcast day.
Yeah.
It's always fun on podcast day. 4th of July weekend. Can't fucking beat it. So, today in studio, we have Aaron Gray. He is the owner of Practice Makes Perfect Music Studio. How you doing, bro?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, man. It's been a struggle trying to get you in here with the switch over, the new studio and everything like that. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate
no problem. I totally understand. We're always busy out. Practice makes perfect, so I get it.
Yeah. All right, man. What's it all about? Tell us.
I co-own the studio with my good friend Sam Speck Burns. We started the studio in 2021 is our official start date. And we're a totally inclusive, diverse studio. We make it a really big effort to hire diverse teachers and be really inclusive to our students and parents and everyone. We wanted the studio to be a space where anyone can come and have music and arts and do whatever they want to do without any fear of persecution or any derogatory statements. In fact, we make all of our students and parents sign a waiver that says they won't do that kind of stuff. But we really saw a need for a safe space for the arts, especially in this area. And when we started, we were just Sam and I teaching online because we started in the middle of COVID. Mm-hmm. So we eventually built up enough teacher base and got a couple locations. Now, today, we have 4 different locations. So we are in Greensburg, Connellsville, Charleroi, and Lancaster right now, which is really cool. Whoa. We have over 250 students and 30 teachers right now. So we started with 2 and 5 students a year and a half ago. So it was really cool.
Crazy.
Well, how did you scale that up so quickly within a year?
A lot of it was finding friends and teachers that already had some students that could bring a few students with them to the studio. I know one of our founding members, Chelsea Rittenauer, she's a fantastic vocalist. She's one of our Connellsville teachers, so she had a big Connellsville studio base already. So she had 20 kids that jumped on, so we had that big jump from those. But most of it's just been us really working hard, trying to get out there in the community, doing events. I think this June, we had 17 events alone.
Wow.
It was a lot. I'm exhausted. But we try to get out in the community and do as much as we can. Volunteer work too. We volunteer a lot. And then we use social media as much as we can to get a word out and spread out and try to get some students in there. So
Yeah. Dude, that's pretty sweet. I don't know that if you know, but I used to live in Lancaster.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that where's the studio located there?
We're very new out there. We actually, one of my good friends, Hannah Versano, she went to college with me, and she was a piano minor, and she's actually having her second child right now. And she actually reached out to me and said, hey, I see you're doing these child development classes. Can you give me any pointers? And I said, why don't you just teach for us? And she was all about it. She said, yeah, you guys do the paperwork, I'll do the teaching. And we were like, nice. Sounds good to us. So that was the challenge, was now we have to find a space out there. We actually Hannah hooked us up with a room in the East Petersburg Mennonite Church.
Cool.
Out there. So we're using that room a couple days a week to teach those baby classes. We don't have any lessons out there right now. That is something we're going to stretch into, but we do have our child development classes out there, which is a big hit for that area. So,
Wow.
It's really neat.
So tell me about the early days when it was just the 2 of you and the 5 students. Was that more of a home operation, or did you already have sort of a space? And
so when we first started, it was when we were thinking about it, it was before COVID had hit, and we both had private studios of our own. So I had a few students, and Sam had some. And a music studio was always kind of on the books for both of us, and we just met in December that previous year, so we'd never talked about it or anything like that. And one day I was just like, hey, Sam, do you want to teach with me, and we'll see where it goes? And we started that, and most of it was just teaching out of our, we taught out of our homes. We both have home studios. We taught online, stuff like that, and then we just kept adding teachers that had home studios or could teach online, or we also... One of the unique things about our studio is we offer in-home lessons too. So that was a big thing back then, is almost all of our students were in someone else's home. So I would go to the student's house to
Okay.
teach them.
Yeah.
But now I think I only have 2 students of my own that I have to go to their house. They're all either in my studio or Green Beacon or Collinsville, one of our locations now. So it's really cool.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. So what? I guess what made you decide to go the route of, I guess, kind of like make it front and center, the whole like all inclusive thing? Was there a reason that
Yeah.
that had to happen, or?
Yeah. So I went to Latrobe. I grew up in Latrobe. Like I lived here my whole
Same.
life. And Sam lived in Pittsburgh, so pretty close. And we both experienced like the same stuff growing up. Like we'd have teachers that would just tell you don't try out for this or don't go for that or don't practice this just
Yeah.
because they didn't like us or stuff like that. And then you also find a lot, like especially in this area, you would get teachers that had that mindset, but also students that had that mindset where you don't feel welcome anywhere.
Yeah.
And that music should be a safe space. Like the arts is like a huge area that is already diverse and should be safe for those people. So that was a big thing for me, was like we're not having that anywhere. And then the other big thing was the quality of teaching in the area. There's a lot of music studios right now that are popping up all over the place, but a lot of them don't have quality teachers. I'm not trying to shade any of the other music studios, but we try to make sure all of our teachers have music theory. They all went to college. They all have this certain background in music where we don't have like a 13-year-old teaching some guitar lessons or something like that. But we try to make it so that you're learning in a safe environment, and we are also, we're called practice makes perfect, but we know that you're never going to be perfect.
Right.
Practice really does make progress. So we're always trying to enhance our students through practice instead of trying to put them down. So it would never be like, well, you did really bad this week, so you're out, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we're always trying to get them to come back, and we're always trying to make them leave with a smile. So those are the big things for us in the area.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so like so I suck at music. Jordan's pretty musically inclined. I'm not. So if I came and I started singing and you guys were like, stop singing, would you just be like, hey, let's work on some vocals?
We would work through it. There's I don't think I've ever myself, and I think I can speak for all of my teachers, we will never turn away a student. We take all skill levels, beginning, ending. If you're neurodivergent, come over and see us. If you have a kid that has Down syndrome, come over. We got you. Seriously, we'll teach anyone anything. And that you brought up voice, I love that you brought up voice, because that's one of people's biggest complaints or arguments is, oh, you don't want to hear me saying, oh, my voice sounds like garbage. Well, have you ever had a voice lesson? That's my first.
Right.
Have you ever practiced at it? Like, have you ever done any of the work that you need to sound better? That like gets people immediately like, well, no, I just sing in the car. Well, of course you're going to think you sound bad. Here, do these 2 lessons, come over and see what you sound like after this. That's kind of where we kind of get adults, especially. It's almost always our adults that are like, oh, I can't sing. You don't want to hear me sing. And I'm like, I bet you after a couple lessons, you're going to want to hear yourself sing. So,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's a free trial lesson, so that you have no obligation to sign up or anything after that.
When I was in middle school, I chose chorus class because I thought it was going to be an easy class, right? And so there was actually a chorus that you had to sign up for, and so the teacher was looking for like really good singers. And so what he would do is he would take us back one by one in like a separate room, and he would play on the keyboard, and we had to hit the certain notes. And I remember I had to go back there. So my first time singing for somebody, it was just me and this dude in a room, and he's like going up the scale, and I can't hit any of the notes. And he was just like, "You're done. you did it. You did the assignment."
I love those stories, and I hate that teachers do that. And I'll tell you a secret. They're just looking for students that can jump into the choir quickly.
Right.
Their job isn't to train your voice or anything like that. So if you're not immediately hitting pitches, that's a lot of work for them for one student, and they have 50 to take care of, you know. Whereas if you're going to a voice teacher, they're going to stop and say, okay, these are what the things you need to work on. Before we even get up the scale singing those notes, let's stop right here, make sure you can match this pitch, and then we'll go further. I always tell my students that. And in fact, a lot of my students are now adults because they'll start their kids will want to quit. And the adult is the reason that the kid started in the first place.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, maybe I'll take lessons. And I'm like, what are you waiting for? Let's go. And all my adults that sign up, they're still going.
Yeah.
I have adults that sign up temporarily I have one right now. She was supposed to have 3 voice lessons. She's on her 2nd month of lessons now. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of what's going on at my house. We have our oldest boy signed up for golf lessons, and every time he comes home, he's like, it's a whole new like golfer, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? And I'm like, I want to take lessons from this guy because like he's getting like so much better. And going back to what you were saying, like kids being shitty and stuff like that to each other. This actually did happen to him at the country club the other day. He was telling me that this one kid walked up to his coach and he was like, do you think he's trying out? And the coach was like, I'm not sure. He's, we're working on we're learning new skills and blah, blah, blah. And this kid who I guess was on the golf team, he's like some rich kid, was like, man, he really sucks. And like the coach was just like, dude, get out of here with that. So I was pretty happy to see that the coach was just like not having any of that shit.
That's great when they shut that down
Yeah.
immediately. I love that. I have so many coaches and teachers that would let that stuff continue, and it's just like, why? There's no reason for that.
And he's not bad. He's he's actually very good.
Yeah.
Well, the basics of teaching, the pedagogy of it is that, let's say this rich kid probably is better than him because maybe he has more experience, but access. But what that kid's not seeing is there's a lot of people who might not be as good right now, but have a higher arc of potential than that. So a real teacher can see, this person has potential. He could skyrocket past these people who are probably either don't have the skill set or
they have the talent and they're kind of just sliding by
working
instead
hard,
of like working at it. Yeah.
So that's cool that you don't just give up immediately on these students because it's at least you can at least progress somebody and get them a little bit better. They might not be the greatest singer or musician or whatever it is, but they can at least get better by taking those lessons.
That's like our core mission is like practice makes perfect, but really practice makes progress. As long as we're seeing you progress, you're doing great. That's like our motto. Like literally any progression that you see, you're killing it. Yeah. And that I actually want to bring up a point you said about like the rich kid has more opportunities to like learn, and we have a foundation that we're starting, the Francis and Marion Foundation, that right now is called the Francis Fund. Francis was my grandmother, and Marion is Sam's grandmother. Sam's grandmother's still alive. But my grandmother paid for all of my piano lessons when I was growing up. I couldn't, there was no way I would have been able to afford any lessons. And Sam's grandmother paid for her violin and all of her instrument repairs while she was growing up.
Wow.
So that's what our foundation's going to do, is it provides money for kids to take lessons for free or for discounted. We get free instruments for them. We collect instruments. We do instrument drives all the time. Right now I'm sitting on 1 extra keyboard for a student. We actually needed 3 keyboards, and enough people donated keyboards that we didn't even have to buy one for the student. So we were like blown away. But that's a huge part of our studio, is like we started the Francis Fund, I think the same day we started the studio. I was like, we have to have something for kids that can't afford this.
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing. Like, you get the kids that can afford it that started lessons, and then there's kids that want to do this and just never will be able to because they just won't be able to afford it, or some other barrier that they're experiencing. And that's another thing, like we don't make our kids memorize music for our recitals because there are so many kids that just can't. There are people that literally, you have so many reasons why you wouldn't be able to memorize music. And heck, I'm busy, and I know how much time it takes to memorize a piece.
Yeah.
And if it were me, I'd be freaking out at that recital if I had to memorize something in that short amount of time. It just takes all the nerves off those kids, and then they perform better. There's no reason for them to have to memorize it when they can't, and there's no reason for them to not be able to afford these lessons. So that's like one big thing in our community. We fundraise as much as we can to be able to give these kids free lessons, discounted lessons, and provide instruments and stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. It's really cool. I mean, like, you guys, business-wise, you guys really have your shit together. It's very neat to hear, like, you know, I think we're missing a very important part. How did you get into music? Like, when did you get into music?
So that's kind of my grandmother thing.
Yeah.
When I was 7, my sister was 6. My grandmother told us, she was like, "You have to take piano lessons." There was no option. She said you have to take 1 week. You come back for the second lesson. After the second lesson, if you hate it, you don't have to take it. My sister flew out the door after the second lesson. I don't think she ever quit something so fast in her life. And I liked it. I was just like, this is awesome. And she was like, here's your first keyboard. Here's money for your lessons. You come to my house. And I went to her house every week for lessons. And that's where I got my start with piano. I just started with my grandmother. She was actually my first ever teacher. She taught me my first lesson. And then my second teacher was another family member who's a second cousin. And I had him for a while. And then we cycled through teachers. But every single teacher I had, no matter where I was, my grandmother was paying for it.
Wow. That's really awesome.
So is that your main instrument?
Yes. So I am piano performance. It was my what I graduated with at St. Vincent, and I also teach voice and organ. Organ is like my least proficient instrument, but piano is like my main. And you'd think that piano and organ are very similar, but
Just about to ask.
they are not. Actually, the only thing that's similar about them is they both have keys, which that's basically like saying a flute and saxophone are the same thing because they both have the same kind of keys on them. But an organ also has a whole foot pedal, and it also has like multiple manuals or keyboards. So you have like shorter keyboards, but you have them stacked upon each other, whereas the keyboard piano is just 88 keys straight across.
Right.
So a little bit easier for me to manage when they're all here instead of thinking about, oh, I have to move my hand up. And then on top of that, to make sounds out of the organ, you have to pull these things on the side called stops, and there's like hundreds of them, and you have to know which combinations work and make nice sounds and not. There's one that literally sounds like a dying duck. So if you pull it out at the wrong time, it's just this loud blaring.
I'd like that one.
I was going to say that'd be my
cool.
favorite.
I just like to work that in every once in a while.
So you went to St. Vincent.
Yes, so that's where I went to St. Vincent after I went to Greater Latrobe. That's where I got my piano performance degree, and I technically graduated from there in 2014, but really it wasn't until 2017, kind of.
How'd you work that?
It's a funny story. So my last year there, I ended up dropping my last semester actually because I figured I wouldn't finish my degree because of some things that happened. And I actually asked the dean before this. I actually asked the dean for piano. Let me preface this with piano performance and music performance at St. Vincent at the time had the most credits required for any degree, period. Like even if you were on medical track or like math, you didn't have as many credits because your core classes double dipped. Music only had one core class. Wow. So it was music appreciation, which we didn't take. So we didn't ever double dip our core classes. So we had to take all this core plus all the music classes, and it was like 112 credits just for the music portion. Wow. So it was a lot. So I went to the dean and said, hey, can I take this music history course as my history course? Can I take this language class, these 3 languages I had to take, as my Spanish? And they said no. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to finish in time. So I dropped that. The same week, one of my friends, she actually works for the studio right now. One of my friends asked the same dean for the same allowance, and they gave it to her.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I was just pretty livid with that, and it dropped. And then 2.5 years later, I actually got a phone call from one of my teachers who was like my mentor there and helped me out, and said, hey, this dean's going to give you your degree. You just got to sign these papers off and blah, blah, blah. And
boom.
Literally got my degree like 3 years later for no reason. They just waived all the stuff that they didn't waive before, and I had it. Yeah.
St. Vincent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
With you being all about, inclusivity and, equal rights for everybody and all of that stuff, how was your experience at St. Vincent?
It was trash. Not gonna lie. It was bad. I had just a lot of bad experiences with a lot of people. Just my freshman year, in fact, my first semester there, I should have left right after this. It was in my first semester. Some of the prefects lynched a bear. A gay black student, they lynched his teddy bear in his pod and like left it in his room. And it was a big incident, and it was a huge thing.
What?
And yeah, St. Vincent swept it under the rug. The offending members of whoever did it had to write a letter. They wrote an apology letter, and were left to just be at the school. One of them became a prefect after that, and that was just insane to me. He's in charge of other people, and he's lynching people's bears and stuff. Like, why is he allowed to do that? And then the other kid, the victim, ended up leaving the school, like rightfully so. He should have never stayed, but like he didn't get anything from the school in like restitution or even an apology from the school or anything like that.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, of course not. But yeah, so that was my very first experience with like garbage at St. Vincent, and just the whole time there's microaggressions from students and staff, and like Rick Saccone would constantly call out like Muslim students and other ethnicities. Just even in class, it was so grating just to hear other students tell me about these things, like teachers I didn't even have. I know friends that I went to Latrobe High School with that went to St. Vincent as well, that experienced the same kind of things I did. I know that they've been trying to have a LGBTQ group on campus for 10 years now maybe, and they deny it every time. There's all kinds of stuff that just isn't right over there. And then this speech that they had this year, that was like that I want to say that I can't believe they had him come in, but I 100% believe he can.
Did you see it? Did you watch?
I watched the entirety. So I saw the entire speech. It was disgusting, but I watched the whole thing. And I applaud those students that stayed at the center for the entire speech and had the courage and strength just to get through the speech, and the courage to ask him questions at the end, even though he dismissed them completely, which was crazy.
Right.
But that I want to say that it's not the speech that bothered me. It's not that they brought someone in and gave a speech. Okay, free speech. It's that they keep saying that they're inclusive now. They're better now. Their new motto is like together in this, or whatever it is. It's all togetherness now. And you're saying all this stuff and saying, oh, we're not this bad administration that you guys had when I was there for my freshman year. We're better now. And then they bring in a racist speaker. It's like, well, you're saying one thing and your actions are doing a totally different thing.
Yeah. So I actually, I heard about, through the grapevine, I heard this year that they proposed the LGBTQIA plus group again, and it was denied again. But they were told that they could receive counseling for their condition.
I believe that. Yep. 100%. I know that was the group was denied, but
so can you guys shed some light? So when you say group, are you saying, is it a club or is it
club? So it's a student. They have student-run clubs, and that's one of the clubs that is continuously being told they can't exist or can't have it.
So you have to submit and ask for permission to form this club, and they're denying it year after year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they have to work on their condition, or they
apparently. They've been given the allowance to go get counseling for their condition.
Do they have diversity and inclusion officer?
They do not. In fact, the only staff member of color I even know about is Jeffrey Mallory, who worked there when I was there and left for another school, and they brought him back last year after all the George Floyd stuff. He came back, and that's who they keep referring us to. I haven't heard from him once since I left the school. I've emailed the administration countless times about stuff like this, and I still haven't had a response from any of them, including Father Paul, Jeffrey Mallory, who they keep telling us, like, when we do finally get a response, it's send this to Jeff Mallory. And then you send it to Jeff Mallory, and there's no response. So it's like this, just like they're just totally ignoring us. And I know for a fact that's happening to multiple alumni of color, especially. We actually started a St. Vincent group against racism, and we have a letter going out to the board. I think the letter already got distributed, but we had like 200 signatures on that. But that was a common theme with all of the alumni of color for the last like 10, 15 years. They all said, like, yeah, we've been emailing administration. They won't do a damn thing. They won't even respond to us. Like, they won't even respond to us.
Right.
And that is the most frustrating thing is, like, these are issues affecting us, and you're not even listening at this point.
Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to, like, my goal is not to, like, shit on a local college. Like, I don't want to be doing that. But, like, when there's something like that goes on in our community, we're a small community. And when there's something like that goes on, like, I feel a need to talk about it. We have to, you got to talk about this stuff. And, like, nobody's going to know about the Bear. Nobody's going to know about, this group being denied and things like that. I mean, these are things that I hear just from other people and stuff like that. And, it's just absurd to me that in the year 2022 that we're running into issues that people actually give a fuck what other people do with their personal lives. It's like, dude, be fucking better. Like, go do your own shit.
Yeah. Well, to the point with the lynching story, if we didn't talk about it, if you didn't bring that up, no one would ever know what was going on.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
were kind of alluding to that. So it's not necessarily that you're just talking down to a college, but it's like, this is something that happened, and if we don't talk about it, then it exactly what happened with the Bear, it gets swept under the rug. And when you have these type of incidents, the party needs to be held accountable. And I don't know if I'm sure you did, but whenever that happened, Quinlivan, the dean of the school, gave this very poor statement. I won't use the word apology. And that's kind of it. That was all that was really the response. And now he's gone.
Yeah.
So he just dipped after that. He said, we always want to make sure we're inclusive and we're together. And then he's like, all right, I'm out of here. And there's a new guy. So there's just no accountability on a lot of that stuff. And people want to hear about that. This is a major institution in our community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And when you have schools like Seton Hill, that's St. Vincent's sister school. There's sister schools. And you have Seton Hill, who has multiple pride groups, LGBTQ groups. Their administration constantly and consistently supports the community and people of color in the community and people with disabilities in the community and not neurodivergent people. We constantly get emails from the dean of the school that's celebrating. They celebrated Juneteenth.
Yeah.
And St. Vincent would probably celebrate that in 200 years or something,
Right.
But it's just kind of like embarrassing.
Yeah.
That you're down the street 15, 20 minutes, you have your sister school that's doing all these great things and kids are raving about it and kids are safe there and it's a nice school. And then you have St. Vincent that hasn't had a good headline in the last 10 years. That's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Seton Hill. And I personally loved, the thing I really, and I don't know that any of us have our answer, but that I think about is you do have these two polar opposites, which is St. Vincent and Seton Hill, sister and brother schools. But one, I don't know, are they holding so true to a Catholic identity that they're denying, and the other is not? Like do you see where I'm headed with this?
Yeah.
Like they both have the same Catholic identity. Like they all come from Sisters of Charity, Elizabeth Ann Seton, like that whole line, they're from the same thing. It was a boys' school and a girls' school. And so they share all those values. And then now they're totally different the way that they operate.
I think this is going to sound kind of weird, but I think it comes from it was a women's school and a men's school and it turned into this was run by white men. This was run by women who at the time were currently, and even now, didn't have as many rights as the people at St. Vincent, you know? So they saw a need for that. They're the ones, they couldn't vote when the school first came out. They couldn't do these things, right? And they're supposed to be running the school. Of course you're going to see that need in the community to support one another and not put yourself down or put other people down for how they live or who they love or what they look like, where you have the nuns that people are doing that to. And they feel that, you know, and I feel like at St. Vincent, the administration, none of them have ever had that experience, you know?
Probably not.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where my thought process is, like why that branched so diversely, so differently at the end.
And I don't even know the type of students that St. Vincent's recruiting. I know personally that Seton Hill recruits far and wide, other countries, other areas within the United States. So I know they really try to pull. I don't know if St. Vincent does that, or if it's more of a local population.
I feel like St. Vincent has a lot more local than Seton Hill does, a lot more. And one thing, when I was there, and things I've heard current students complain about, alumni still complain about, is they do go to these other schools and recruit people of color or other ethnicities. And for example, they have a school in Newark, New Jersey, St. Benedict's Prep, where it's an all-boys school. It's mostly people of color, minorities, and they draw directly from that school and get kids to come to St. Vincent. And they tell them, like, oh, you can play football, you'll be on the sports team, I'll do this, 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 this. And then they get to St. Vincent and they're not getting all these opportunities, and they're realizing it's not as good. And the St. Vincent is promising them it's a diverse and inclusive school, and they get to St. Vincent and somebody's teddy bear gets lynched the first day they're there. You know, it's I don't think that's true. And that's another big thing is a lot of the alumni have started going back to their high schools that were recruitment schools for St. Vincent, and they're writing letters or they're calling and saying, don't send kids to St. Vincent anymore. Like, what are you doing? They're literally racist, and you're sending black kids to the school. Like, stop it. So that, I think, drawing from those sister schools helps St. Vincent, but at the same time right now it's going to hinder them because those people that they're bringing in from those schools are the ones that are hurting the most.
Yeah. That's wild.
So it's like it sounds like an administration thing is what you're talking about. The administration just doesn't have the experiences and maybe.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing they need is a DEI board. They don't have anything like that at all. They don't have any diversity and inclusivity stuff. They don't have a person that knows what they're doing with diversity and inclusivity. Like, you can't just say, hey, here's one black guy, here you go. All the problems go to him. Like, what? Come on.
Which is what
they're literally doing right now. Yeah. So, and then that, even if he is overwhelmed because they're sending everyone to him, it's been 6 months since my last email, and I still haven't had a reply. Like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just wondering about the St. Vincent thing.
we talked about that at length on another episode.
Yeah. The speech. But back to the music thing. I just your studio is located at the Green Beacon.
Yeah, we have a studio at the Green Beacon from Saturdays through Tuesdays. We're at the Green Beacon, and then we're also in Connellsville at the community center out there. We have our own studio there 7 days a week, and then we actually just partnered with Daniela DeClaudio Productions in Charleroi. So we have a few teachers that we teach our child development classes out there, and have piano, voice, and violin lessons out there now.
Cool.
So yeah.
So if we were to pop down to the Beacon, what lessons are available down there?
There's a lot at the Beacon. Actually, we have percussion, guitar, piano, voice, ukulele is happening. We have flute. All reed instruments, pretty much. The only instrument we don't have at the Beacon physically right now, a teacher for, is saxophone, actually.
Wow.
Saxophone, which is bizarre. You'd think we'd find a saxophone teacher pretty fast, but they're actually kind of rare in the area.
You know what? I could help you out. I took saxophone in 4th grade.
Hey, there we go. That's
Boom.
better than any other applicants we have so far. So.
And I
He
still
does it
remember. I remember how to put it together. So
Hey, there we go.
I could teach a beginner's class.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's sweet. So what kind of age range, I guess, do you guys work with? Is it everybody?
Everybody. We do, our youngest is 6 months for our child development classes. We have 6 months, 2 years, 2 years to 4 years. And then our oldest student right now is 83.
Wow.
So, and most of mine average about 25.
Dang.
So what's a 6 month class looking like? Are they just
Yeah,
throwing
It's
bells around
actually,
and stuff?
you'd think it's just chaos, right?
That's
But it's
exactly what I
actually,
think.
yeah, my wife actually designed the class, which was really cool. My wife and Sam's wife, they designed the first iteration of this course, and my daughter actually takes the class right now still. But the 6 month class, you'd think it's just like a mess and chaos, but
It's like containing.
you're doing songs the whole time, and in these songs and in between the songs, you're with the classes are with family, so you can have up to 4 family members. So you only pay for one admission, and you can have mom, dad, and 2 kids, or you can have 1 kid, dad, and uncle, or you can have mom, aunt, and a kid. It can be any combination. You can have 3 guardians with 1 child, or you can have 3 kids with 1 parent. We don't recommend that because sanity for the parent, obviously.
Right,
But you can do that. Any 4 for that. I think it's $17 a week. So we keep it pretty cheap for the kids. And then the class is kind of structured and a little bit loose. So we have toddler instruments. So we have small sized instruments that are real instruments that actually work. So we have this tiny like purple drum set that they can use. We have a couple guitars, a couple violins, little keyboards, stuff like that. But we also have all these percussion instruments. So the class is structured. We have like a welcome song. The kids all sit on the laps and they like get used to rhythm. So they tap and stuff like that. And then as the class goes on, they start using tambourines and maracas and shakers. And that's the 6 month class usually gets those instruments more. And then our toddler class it's the same structure, same idea, but we start developing their instrumental tastes a little bit more in that class. So we start with the shakers and stuff so they can run around and have fun. But the last 10, 15 minutes of every class, we let the toddlers just play on the new instruments. So they're all like sized for the toddler, so it's really cool because they can sit down at the drum set and you're not scared that they're going to fall off or break their head off a cymbal or something.
Right.
And they can just pick up, and they've been really great at sharing and walking around. And we have enough guitars that we have like 2 kids with a guitar in each class and a couple violins. And if the kids are showing promise or they're like really gravitating towards something, then we'll take out a real instrument and be like, okay, come here. And their faces light up, and it's like, oh, wow, I get to play an instrument. But it is kind of structured. We do the songs. All the songs are developed. Well, not developed, but we pick songs that are used to develop certain skills. So we'll do alphabet stuff, a lot of motor skills, and the biggest thing that we develop with the kids is social skills. So that's one of the biggest things for our parents is they are like, this is fantastic. We had COVID, and now we have this 6 month old or a year old. And we don't know what to do with them. We don't have anywhere to go. We're still trying to be safe. And we try to be as safe as we can with COVID. And when we first started, we were doing all the protocols. We still hand sanitize. We clean all the instruments between classes and stuff like that. And if there's ever a parent that wants to wear a mask, they are absolutely welcome to come masked. The kids are allowed to wear masks if they want to. But we leave it up to the parents as well. So that's kind of what our classes are structured like for the little ones.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, it sounds amazing. I went to lunch with a friend of mine today, and we were sitting there just talking about our boys and stuff like that, and we were just saying that kids these days really don't have the opportunities to gain as much common sense, social skills, and things like that that we did. And, and it's, partly because of the internet, video games, all of that stuff. There's a lot of solo activities that kids gravitate to now. So to hear that you guys are like really pushing that whole like social interaction stuff is fantastic. I think that's like really, really important.
Yeah, thank you. We noticed that parents really like you said, they think that's really important, and we do too. Like even with our daughter, we have like our godson that's the same age, and we have another friend who just had a baby they're like days apart, all 3 of them.
Oh, yeah.
But one lives an hour and a half from us, and the other one lives in Rhode Island, and it's just like, okay, well, we have all these babies together, but they're never together.
Right.
So that was something that the class actually brings in. One of my friends' kids is coming in. One of our teachers brings her kids to the class, and they all get this social development that they weren't getting before, which I think is just awesome. And like seeing the kids like develop from, it's really cool because we've been doing this since November. So you literally are watching the kids that repeat grow up. So like Kaden started and she couldn't even move. She was like a little log and couldn't do hands and stuff. And now you see her at home and a song will come on, she'll start dancing and she'll like tap to the beat and stuff, or she'll pick up an instrument and actually start playing with it.
Yeah.
And that's like, wow, they're actually like learning stuff from our
Right.
class. That's something that I don't attend the class, but at home get to see Cadence learn those skills and bring them home, which
Right.
is really cool.
I mean, I don't know if you know, but our homeboy Ryan over here just had a baby.
I did not know that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. He's 6 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
he's not quite ready to
Yeah.
get at it, but
Maybe the lack of musical ability dies with you.
that would be great. Not just musical ability, artistic ability in all is pretty poor. But so what I'm really interested in this for him, right, is I saw in the Trib, Greensburg, I think it was actually Westmoreland County, put on this thing where they allowed middle school and high school students to come in and try different trades and different activities and things like that. And I thought that was the greatest thing because kids don't have exposure. And when I was in high school, if you went to Votech or something like that, you know, you had all this exposure. But other than that, you don't really know what any of this stuff is. Even basic careers, you don't know what it is. And so I have the mindset, this dad mindset of I want to expose him to everything because, and even if it's just one single class of this, or if it's like, hey, let's go check out what this occupation is or anything like that. And I think the more companies and organizations and studios and things like that offer just like, hey, just come check us out.
Yeah.
That's really, really big because I remember back when I was a kid, I always felt like I had to commit my whole life, to something like that. Like if I wanted to play piano, that's it. I'm a piano player forever now, and I like that would make me hate it, knowing that I'm like, this is a job.
Yeah.
You sure as shit gave up on the saxophone, didn't you?
I made it through 4th grade, 180 days. But I like the fact of getting a little bit of a taste. And the social aspect too is like it's so much more fun to do it with people that you interact with and you get to develop relationships.
It's been really great. Even just like developing parental relationships has been nice. A lot of the parents have like made friends in class, and there were a couple people that actually live in my neighborhood that showed up for class, and we were like, we're neighbors. What? Okay, cool. So that was really cool because there's actually 2 groups of kids that started the first class with us who are now friends with my wife, and like the kids are all the same age, so
Nice.
we can go have play dates and stuff like that
Wow.
too, which is a nice aspect. But yeah, I do love getting a taste of things. I do love like I want to send my daughter to experience everything, right? Like you don't know what you're going to like until you try it.
Right.
And that's where I'm at. Like, yeah, you should come try music, and if you don't like it, okay. Like we're not going to shame you into trying to.
Right.
You have to stay because you signed up for one lesson or stuff like that. No.
Yeah.
Even if you quit in the middle of taking lessons, like, okay, you didn't like it or like you weren't working at it. That's a you thing. I'm not going to get mad about that. Like, you pick what you want to do and you decide when you want to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Like we want to give our teachers all the power and then our students the power to choose what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you like create curriculum and then give it to your teachers, or do they do their own thing?
So for private lessons, all of our private lessons are just do your own thing.
Okay.
When we hire teachers, I wouldn't say vet them. We do a small interview, usually it's over Zoom, but almost all of our teachers are someone we knew before or were recommended by someone or have seen them perform. And I don't think my teachers are fantastic right now. But we don't provide any curriculum for them. They have to bring it up themselves. And that brings up this other point is we have student teachers. Most of them are from Seton Hill. One of them is from St. Vincent right now. But our student teachers offer 2 things. One, a cheaper way to take music lessons because we hire them out at a lower rate because they're students, so they don't know as much as our professionals is the idea. And because they're in college, so their schedules are a little wonky. They have performances and other classes and stuff. So sometimes they might have to cancel or whatever. But we offer our student program as a shadowing opportunity for the students in the college courses to come like learn how to teach. And at the same time, it's throwing them in the deep end teaching, and they're grasping it, and we're getting them, and we'll help you through it if you're a student like that. But we get to offer cheaper lessons, and the students get to learn, and we make sure that those students know that what they're teaching, you know, that it's not like they're coming in and I don't know what to do, they're just frozen or something. We can, in fact, one of my teachers right now shadowed me for 3 weeks before she started teaching on her own, and I'm totally confident that she's going to teach fine. But yeah, it's kind of like that. We just have that student program, which is awesome. I think that's it with the teachers.
What about the non-private? Is there
we have some group classes, and we normally discuss with that teacher what, depending on what the class is. So for example, we have those child classes. My wife and Sam's wife developed them, so she works with all of the teachers that teach that class to make sure that we're doing kind of the same thing, but we still have total freedom. Like Hannah, for example, in Lancaster, she plays the guitar. She's a pianist, but she plays the guitar too. So a lot of her class revolves around her playing her own music, whereas Julia's class, they use recordings. So you get some cool differences like that, where you actually see the teacher playing some instruments. And then, like, for example, our Charleroi class, they got to play the big piano. All the kids get to play the piano, a real piano. We have only keyboards at the Beacon, so they get to play keyboards. But at Charleroi, they were like, a piano. Wow. Yeah, that was really cool for them. But yeah, you get those little subtle differences. But for the most part, we try to keep the same classes under a general blanket curriculum and not really like specifics.
Yeah, you should franchise this. I'm firing on all.
They're already starting.
Yeah, let's talk.
Right?
Yeah, you're going to all these different locations. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I really enjoy.
Yeah,
I enjoy the stuff that's. I know it's not targeted at kids. I know you have a base of everyone, but I like the idea of having a target of kids, because I think a lot of the music programs that I've seen are just like, we just do kids.
Yeah.
And you don't get that experience of working with a lot of different groups and figuring out what works. I can think of a couple or programs that it's like, yeah, we just do, like, if you're like 18 or older, we'll teach you how to do guitar. It's very limited on what you can do.
Yeah, no, we offer so many different things. It's really cool. We have a lot of teachers that are really good at different areas too. So I have a bunch of teachers that are great with kids. Then I have a lot of teachers that are like, please don't give me anyone younger than 13. And that's like, okay, cool. But that gives us this big range where we have, okay, it's an adult, send them to these 3 teachers, and we'll have this nice adult studio built up. And then I'm so confident in all my teachers' ability to like guide those students to where they need to go. It's not even funny, but
yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Aaron Gray. Practice makes perfect. You want to give us some links, and where can
so you can find us at pmpmusicstudio.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Our tag is at PMP Music Studio on, I believe, all of those. Actually, I think our Twitter is PMP Music 2021.
Nice.
That one, I think that one has changed.
When did you make that?
That one went a little rogue.
But yes.
Awesome, man. I'm so glad that we finally got you on here. And to be honest, like, this was such an amazing episode to learn that there's something like this going on here that I had no idea about.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's cool you're partnering with the Green Beacon too.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah.
They're great down there, and love being there. They're so chill. It's been awesome. But yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. This has been awesome. Loved it.
Awesome. All right, next time.
Welcome to the Local.
A 724 podcast.
In 3, 2, 1.